Life is a journey, not just of years, but of understanding, of ourselves, our purpose, and the deeper meaning behind our existence. Carl Jung's words remind us that our early years are not the main event, but a prelude, a necessary foundation upon which the real story unfolds. Life truly begins at 40, he said, not as a warning, but as an invitation. Yet we are conditioned to dread aging, to see midlife as a descent rather than a rise. We hear whispers of crisis, of regret, of time slipping through our fingers. But what if we've had it wrong all along? What if midlife is not a breaking point, but a breakthrough? Not an unraveling, but an awakening. Perhaps this is when we step into the fullness of who we are, not scrambling to hold on to the past, but embracing the profound richness of the present, finally living, not just preparing to. To truly grasp this idea, we must reflect on what the first 40 years of life represent. They are years of exploration, of trial and error, of seeking, filled with lessons learned through experience, identities built and rebuilt, and an endless pursuit of meaning. In our youth, we absorb the world around us, collecting beliefs, values, and ambitions shaped by family, culture, and expectations. We chase success, love, and purpose, believing that once we achieve enough, we will feel whole. Yet even as we reach milestones, a quiet restlessness lingers. Who am I, really? Is this what fulfillment feels like? The answers we find often feel temporary and incomplete. We strive, we stumble, we grow. But as Jung suggests, all of this is groundwork. It is the foundation upon which something deeper, something more authentic, is yet to emerge. Because life does not reach its peak in youth. It unfolds in the moments when we finally turn inward, when we begin living for truth rather than expectation. The first 40 years are not the destination. They are the preparation for the journey that truly matters. And as we near 40, a subtle yet profound shift begins to take place. The ambitions that once fueled us, career achievements, social validation, meeting the expectations of others, start to feel less fulfilling, as if they no longer belong to us. What once seemed urgent now feels hollow, and in that space of quiet discontent, a deeper truth begins to emerge. Much of what we've pursued was shaped by the world around us, not by the voice within. This realization can be unsettling, even disorienting, but it is also the first step towards something greater, what Jung called individuation. It is the process of becoming whole, stepping away from external definitions of success and embracing a life that is truly ours. This transformation doesn't happen in a single dramatic moment. It begins in whispers, in quiet reflections, in questions we can no longer ignore. Is this all there is? Am I truly living the life I want? And in those questions lies the key. Not to crisis, but to awakening. Not to an ending, but to the possibility of a life more honest, more aligned, and more deeply our own. Society often dismisses midlife questioning as a crisis, a breakdown, a loss of direction, a desperate attempt to reclaim youth. But Jung offers a different lens, one that transforms fear into possibility. Midlife, as Jung saw it, is not the beginning of the end. It's the start of something far more real, meaningful, and authentic. To understand why, we must first reflect on how we approached the first half of life. In those years, we constructed what Jung called the persona, the outward identity we show the world, shaped by upbringing, culture, and social expectations. We learn to play our roles, to meet standards, to fit in. And this phase is necessary. Without it, we wouldn't know how to navigate society, build careers, or form relationships. But the persona is not the whole self. It is a mask, a carefully curated version of who we are, designed to gain approval and security. And at some point, we begin to sense its limits. We start to wonder, who am I beneath this role? What parts of me have been buried to fit the mold? These questions aren't signs of crisis. They are the stirrings of something deeper, a call to move beyond the persona and toward the truth of who we are meant to become. The trouble begins when we become too attached to our persona, mistaking it for our true self. For years, we've invested in these roles: the accomplished professional, the devoted parent, the reliable partner, believing they define us. But as midlife approaches, the cracks begin to show. What once felt like a source of identity now feels confining, as if we've been living within walls we never questioned. A quiet realization dawns. There is more to me than this. This is where the real work begins, the journey of integrating all aspects of ourselves, both the parts we proudly display and those we've long ignored. The persona may be what we show the world, but the shadow, the hidden side of us, holds everything we've rejected: our fears, insecurities, unspoken desires, and untapped potential. Picture a vast iceberg where only a small portion is visible above water, while the majority remains submerged. Our conscious self is like the tip of the iceberg, and the shadow represents the larger, hidden mass beneath the surface. To achieve wholeness, we must delve into these depths, bringing the unseen into the light of awareness. We spend the first half of life building an identity that fits within the world's expectations. The second half is about reclaiming the pieces we left behind. It is not about discarding who we were, but about becoming whole, embracing the full spectrum of our being, not just the polished version we present to others. And though this journey may feel unsettling, it is also profoundly freeing. Only when we stop living solely for the image, we begin living for the truth. Confronting the shadow, the parts of ourselves we've ignored or suppressed, can be uncomfortable, even painful, but it is necessary. Growth doesn't come from avoidance, it comes from courage, the willingness to face ourselves fully, without judgment. Only by embracing these hidden aspects can we move toward true wholeness. At midlife, the process of individuation takes on new urgency. The questions shift. No longer are we preoccupied with, what have I achieved? But rather, what truly fulfills me? What legacy will I leave? Am I living a life that reflects who I really am? These are not questions with easy, external answers. They cannot be resolved by seeking approval or meeting expectations. They demand an inward journey, a willingness to listen, not to the voices of the world, but to the quiet truth within. And as we listen, our priorities change. The ambitions that once drove us, status, success, the need to prove ourselves, lose their grip. Instead, we begin to crave something deeper: authenticity, meaning, connection. Life becomes less about chasing and more about being. It is no longer about becoming someone, but about being ourselves. No longer about proving our worth, but about living in alignment with the truth of who we are. And that shift, from striving to being, is where real freedom begins. Science echoes what Jung intuited. This shift in midlife isn't just psychological, it's biological. Studies in neuroscience reveal that as we age, the brain's emotional centers become more balanced. We react less impulsively and reflect more deeply. We gain the ability to regulate our emotions with greater ease, allowing us to approach challenges with wisdom rather than fear. This emotional maturity empowers us to make choices that align with our values rather than the pressures of the past. We stop living on autopilot and start living with intention. But this transformation isn't without struggle. Midlife can be a time of deep upheaval, where we are called to let go of old identities, outdated relationships, and ambitions that no longer serve us. The unraveling of who we thought we were can feel like loss, even grief. It's easy to see why this stage is often labeled a crisis, when in reality, it is a profound rebirth. The discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong, but that something new is emerging. And just like any transition, it requires courage, the willingness to release what no longer fits in order to make space for what truly does. Research affirms what experience often reveals. Life satisfaction tends to increase as we move through our 40s, 50s, and beyond. People in midlife report feeling more connected to themselves and to others, less burdened by external validation, and more attuned to what brings them joy and meaning. This is the quiet, yet profound gift of midlife, the freedom to live on our own terms. Jung believed this freedom arises when we embrace the full spectrum of who we are. It is not about chasing perfection, but about integration, honoring both our light and our shadow, our triumphs and our failures, our fulfilled dreams and our disappointments. It is about self-acceptance in its truest form, seeing ourselves completely and choosing to live authentically despite and because of our complexities. In this way, midlife is not the beginning of the end. It is the beginning of something far richer, a turning point, an invitation to step fully into the life we were meant to live. Life truly begins at 40, not because we suddenly have all the answers, but because we finally start asking the right questions. And while the journey requires courage, it also offers something priceless in return, a sense of peace, purpose, and authenticity that was always waiting for us beneath the noise.